I have some great news and I have some bad news. The great news is I have for you today one of the funniest, stupidest looking penalties you've ever seen. The bad news is things are changing. They're changing around here fast. First, you might notice the color behind me does not match the color of that Z down there. That's right. Our branding, it's falling apart. It's falling to shambles. And I'm going to be honest, this was an executive decision that I made. So I'm the person that gets to bear all the blame here. And I've made this executive decision because these lights, unbelievably, for how cheap they were, are starting to break. And I'm moving in a month, and so I am not going to replace them. Two of these three lights behind me, at least those string lights back there, they're stuck blue. It's true. It might sound horrifying, but I just have the executive I had to make the executive decision that this looked worse. I think it does look worse. Maybe you want me to leave that little bit of green there so we're hanging on to the last bit of our sanity on the Zealandism channel, the last bit of overall Zealandism. I obviously can still change the Z. Those are much fancier lights up on the wall back there. But I just figured, if it was half and half, it's like dipping one toe in the water. It wasn't satisfying enough. It didn't look good enough. So I've changed it. And while one change was underway, I figured I'd go all in. Right? There's always a lot of talk about my luscious locks, my sumptuous flow. Well, it's gone. This is the natural shape of greatness, the natural shape of my forehead. Okay, we've brought it in for the summer, right? You can see my ears. You can see an excellent tracing of my hairline. In case you were ever curious, I know you were. I see all those Google searches. I've got an alert out there for Zealand hair. I know it's a very popular concept. But I did go in 4 on the sides, a little longer on the top, and we came out with this absolute masterclass. The lettuce era, though, the lettuce era is gone. That explosive Einstein-type hair that made me look like a background character in Oppenheimer, it is no more. And I think this is going to allow me to think clearer, but I realize that all of this change can be jarring, so I will be putting a phone number in the description, 1-800, it'll be okay. If you have trouble dealing with the change, please contact that phone number. I am going to give you one word of caution. That phone number is not actually real. Much like this penalty, I don't believe this is an actually real effort from a professional. That's actually not true. I kind of understand how what happens ends up happening. It's just really funny. It's always really funny to me to watch an actual professional athlete, somebody that is doing the dream job of basically everybody on the planet, still manage to fuck it up mightily, just absolutely obliterate any chance they had of scoring. I mean, just like look like something that you would be laughing about if you watched your friend do it in a Sunday League rec league match, but actually do that in an unbelievably massive moment. And of course, in order for you to understand the massive moment, let me set the scene for you. Valencia against Osasuna. An early goal from Almeida for Valencia in a match between two teams battling for European places in Spain. Osasuna needs a late run this season, while Valencia is trying desperately to hang on to the 7th spot in the league. So this is a big match. And I want you to remember the fact that Osasuna is at home. And if you scroll down this entire little box score right here, you'll see that in the 97th minute, a guy named Ante Budimir missed a penalty. But this box score does not do that justice at all. Does not. I mean, it's not the box score's fault. It's not the box score's job to do that justice. But the ramifications of this penalty are significant. Valencia manages to keep itself in 7th place, and Osasuna now ends up 8 points, or potentially, depending on coefficient rankings, 6 points out of Europe instead of, 7 and 5, and obviously, would have. Well, hold on. I suck at math. Valencia would have lost 2 points. Yeah, they would have been 5 points out of Europe if they managed to score this penalty. But now, since this was a 6-pointer, they are 8 points out of Europe. See, my math teacher would be proud. And now to the penalty miss in question. In the 97th minute, Ante Budimir, take it away. I got you. So I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to show it to you. Here we go. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. I mean, I've obviously seen it. I've obviously seen it already. Let's look at this angle. Oh, no. I mean... Okay, so the expert assessment of what happens here. Ante Budimir is trying to do a hesitation move. Obviously, he's overthought this. He's overcomplicated the simple art, as Sean Dyche has shown us, in his career and I guess his managerial career too, of just smacking the tar out of the ball and hoping it goes into the back of the net, right? This is the overcomplication. This is the I'm going for the hezzy. But then as he goes for the hezzy, he seems to lose his balance, at which point he has to take a swing at the ball. And I mean, you could have crawled into the path of that shot. And the reason this is the worst penalty, I think, that I've ever seen, objectively the worst penalty I've ever seen, is even though it's on target, it feels like it has less of a chance of going in. Because that Harry Kane penalty in the World Cup quarterfinal, for example, not the first one that he scored, but the second one that he just absolutely zinged over the top of the goal. Yeah, that one, I mean, he's hitting that with a pretty good chance to put the ball in the back of the net, right? He just happens to get a bit too far under it. The type of contact that is made on this ball gives it essentially a 0% chance of going in, unless the goalkeeper happens to blow out his knee while he's diving to the side and can somehow not get back already. But based off where Mamardashvili is when this ball's coming in, I think even with an obliterated knee or a pair of obliterated, if he got a double leg amputation, he would still be able to save this shot. That should never be a sentence that is uttered. Not that I'm wishing any ill will on Georgi Mamardashvili's legs. I'm all team Georgia. It's like my fourth favorite state. I think they've got a great shot at the Euros. But this is hilarious, and I appreciate it. Obviously, for the home fans, for Osasuna, this is a really heartbreaking moment. For Ante Budimir, it's one of those moments that you're just never going to live down. But as somebody that has to spend a significant portion of their life in the public eye, sometimes when you're in the public eye, you just end up doing something so stupid that it follows you for an incredibly long time. I know because one time I sang a song about loans on Football Manager, and then in my first public appearance at a panel at the European Gaming Expo 2 years later, the first question I got asked was for me to do a live performance of that loan song. Now, I did oblige, although there is no actual loan song, so I basically just stood up in front of a large group of people and just made up a song, but everybody seems satisfied with it. If I'm Ante Budimir, you got to kind of lean into this, and I think you have to approach it the same way Bukayo Saka approached missing a penalty in the Euros. Just become the penalty taker for Osasuna. Master this art. So watch Jorginho do this 25 times, and you'll be cooking these balls in the back of the net in no time. I definitely don't want to dump on Ante Budimir for this. I think this is I think a penalty that looks like this could happen to a lot more people and a lot more professional players than any professional player would like to admit. His brain got ahead of his legs, he lost his footing, and he ended up having to take a wild swing at the ball that didn't make appropriate contact. This is the human embodiment of overthinking something, and is a great example to show somebody whenever you think they might be overthinking something. Have them save this video and then link to this point. Stop overthinking things, or you could end up like this guy, Ante Budimir. Don't be an Ante Budimir in this situation. Just do it. This message not brought to you by Nike because we're not that cool, but maybe someday. Hope you enjoy the new lights and haircut because we're riding with this until I move next month. All right.